I think, overreacted. Um, I've been a little more dramatic uh, because I'm not as used to the
River Phoenix's family escaped a dangerous cult when he was 7. They changed their last name and started over. But some secrets can't be outrun. By age 23, River had confessed to childhood abuse that shocked America. He dated co-stars, refused big movie deals, and lived like he was running out of time. Then came that final night at the Viper Room. What happened in those last moments wasn't just an accident. It was the end of a story that began in a cult compound years earlier. River Phoenix was born on August 23, 1970, in a small wooden house on a farm in Madras, Oregon. His full name was River Jude Bottom. That name wasn't random. River came from the Holy River in the novel Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and Jude came from the Beatles' song Hey Jude. His parents believed names had meaning. They wanted something spiritual, something artistic, something that fit the life they dreamed of. His mother, Arlen Sharon Dunetz, was Jewish, born in the Bronx. Her family had roots in Russia and Hungary. His father, John Lee Bottom, came from Fontana, California. He was once Catholic, but not anymore. His ancestors were English, German, and French. Together, Arlen and John had no interest in staying still. They were hippies, drifters, searching for something bigger than the usual life. In 1968, Arlen was hitchhiking through Northern California. She had left behind a normal life in New York, where she'd once been married to a computer worker. But she wasn't happy. She wanted more. That's when John picked her up on the side of the road. They clicked immediately. Within a year, they were married. That was September 13th, 1969. After that, they didn't settle. They became migrant workers, picking fruit across the country. They didn't care about money or comfort. They moved constantly. River and his sister Rain had no real home and no real school. They performed on the streets just to eat. River later called it a desperate life. But it was the only life he knew. In 1973, when River was just 3 years old, the family joined a cult. It was called the Children of God. This group started in 1968, led by a man named David Brant Berg. He said he was a prophet. The cult attracted thousands of young people. It grew fast. It promised love and faith. But underneath, it was something much darker. By 1971, the cult had over 4,000 members across the U.S. They lived in communes and followed strict rules. Berg wrote thousands of letters, which he called Mo letters. These letters became more disturbing over time, especially about sex. The cult taught that sex was a way to show God's love. But they didn't stop at adults. They included children. River's family was sent to Venezuela. His father became known as the Archbishop of Venezuela and the Caribbean. The children performed on streets and in churches. River said they lived in a rat-filled shack. They had barely enough to eat. And the worst part was what happened behind closed doors. In 1991, River told Details magazine something horrifying. He said he lost his virginity when he was 4. Other children were involved. It happened in the cult. He said he had blocked most of it out, but the trauma was there. The cult taught that children were ready for sex at age 4. Adults would sleep with children. Parents were told this was normal. Babysitters, called house shepherds, were often the ones who abused the kids, while the parents were out trying to bring in new members through sex. River's brother Joaquin was born in Puerto Rico in 1974. But even then, the family kept moving. From Venezuela to Mexico to other places in South America. Always poor, always working in the fields, always under the cult's control. The children didn't go to school. They just performed. They sang and played music on the streets to make money for the cult. Sometimes crowds gathered. Police had to break them up. But to the cult, it was just business. The kids were useful. By 1977, River was 7 years old. The family couldn't take it anymore. The cult had become even worse. Berg's teachings were becoming more extreme. He wanted children to take part in adult sexual rituals. That was the final line for John and Arlen. They ran. They were broke. They had nothing. For a while, they lived in a hut on a beach in Venezuela. Then a kind priest helped them. He gave them food and shelter, and he helped them get onto a freighter ship going to Florida. Once they got to America, they were different. They needed a fresh start. So on April 13, 1979, they changed their last name to Phoenix. Like the mythical bird that rises from its ashes, they wanted to be reborn. It wasn't just a new name, it was a way to leave the horror behind. River Phoenix started acting at just 10 years old. But it wasn't some lucky break or dream come true. It began with poverty. His family had just escaped a cult in Venezuela. They lived in slums with rats and no toilets. When they reached Los Angeles, they had nothing. River and his siblings would sing on the streets for change, just to eat. One day, while they were performing on a street corner in Westwood, a talent agent named Iris Burton saw them. She saw something in them, something raw and real. Within months, River was doing national TV commercials. He was 10 years old, but already feeding his family. If he didn't earn money that day, they didn't eat. He wasn't just doing ads. He and his sister Rain became audience warm-ups for a TV show called Real Kids. By 1980, River appeared on a show called Fantasy, singing with Rain. He could tap dance. He could impersonate Elvis. And he was just getting started. When River was 14, he got his first movie role in Explorers with Ethan Hawke. They started filming in October 1984. It should have been a big moment. But the studio rushed everything. The editing wasn't even finished when they demanded it hit theaters. It came out on July 12, 1985, right before the huge Live Aid concert. That same month, Back to the Future was dominating theaters. So Explorers bombed. It made just $9.8 million against a $25 million budget. River played a nerdy kid scientist, Wolfgang Mueller, but almost no one saw it. His debut vanished, and it wasn't his fault. Still, Iris Burton kept pushing him. She had already discovered Henry Thomas from E.T. and was known for finding child actors. She didn't just stumble upon the Phoenix family. She was looking. She saw kids performing out of desperation and saw money. Within weeks, she got River into big ads and introduced the family to Paramount casting heads. Her clients included Adam Rich, Kirk Cameron, and Candace Cameron. River was now in the same machine. But his life didn't change much at home. They had escaped Venezuela by hiding on a freighter full of toys. When they landed in Florida, they were still broke. Even when River was doing commercials, they lived in cheap motels. He was sexually abused in the cult, something he later talked about openly. He said he first made love at 4 with other children. And now, even while appearing in luxury brand ads, his real life stayed dark. He worked, constantly. There was no childhood left. He was the family's only hope, and they needed him. In 1986, everything changed with Stand By Me. River was 15. He played Chris Chambers, a tough kid with a quiet sadness. At a private screening, the studio boss didn't even care about the film, until his 2 teenage daughters said they were in love with River halfway through. That was it. The studio bought the film on the spot. But it wasn't just his looks. In one powerful scene, Chris breaks down crying about being seen as a thief. River couldn't quite get it. So director Rob Reiner pulled him aside and asked, When was the last time you felt like you let someone down? River came back. One take. He was sobbing. The crew was stunned. Even Reiner said it was devastating. That was River. Real and raw. He added tiny things to the role that made it unforgettable, like keeping a cigarette pack rolled in his sleeve or asking to smoke on camera to feel like the character. He used a lower voice to sound older, more serious. Critics noticed. Roger Ebert said River's performance held the whole film together. The film opened quietly on August 8, 1986. No stars, low budget, just a few theaters. But word spread fast. People loved it. The studio added more theaters, 700 by Labor Day. They even added 150 theaters in 1 week to keep up with demand. It made $52 million in the US and became a global hit. In Japan, it made about $18 million, and teenage girls loved River's rebel image. Worldwide, more than 16 million people saw it in theaters. He was just 16, and suddenly, he was a teen idol. But he hated it. Magazines like Bop and Tiger Beat put his face on posters. At one Q&A event in Boston, fans screamed so loud, 95 decibels, they had to sneak him out the back door. He'd get piles of fan mail and throw them away. He didn't even read them. He once got asked to prom and showed up in paint-splattered jeans to make sure no one took pictures. He didn't care about fame. He was a vegan, an activist, someone who cared about real things. He once said, "If they only notice the cheekbones, they'll never hear the message." But the more he pulled back, the more obsessed fans became. One teen magazine said River's covers outsold Michael J. Fox by 18%. Even when he tried to keep his role in Indiana Jones a secret by checking into his hotel under a fake name, fans still found him. Right after Stand By Me, he flew to Belize to film The Mosquito Coast. It was hot, over 110 degrees, mosquitoes everywhere. He slept under bug nets soaked in repellent. He played Harrison Ford's son. It was grueling. One scene had him carry 40-pound blocks of ice down a muddy hill for 8 hours. He bruised a rib but didn't ask for a double. The director praised him. So did critics. The New York Times said his acting had startling emotional precision. He got nominated for Best Supporting Actor by the National Board of Review. At 16, Harrison Ford liked him so much that he pushed for him again 3 years later. That led to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. River played young Indy in the opening scene, just 8 minutes, but he nailed it. It was filmed in Arches National Park in Utah. He had to ride a horse, fight with a whip, and face a lion. That whip scene left a real scar on his chin. One part, where he tames the lion with a chair, was something River made up on the spot. Same with the moment he dusts off his jacket like Harrison Ford. The crew clapped. Spielberg kept it in the film. Last Crusade opened on May 24, 1989, and made $37 million in 5 days. That was the second biggest Memorial Day weekend ever at the time. River didn't want to do the spin-off TV series. He didn't want to be locked into anything long-term. But those 8 minutes made him a star everywhere. A toy company said 40% of young indie action figure orders were from girls. That had never happened before in their entire Indiana Jones line. River Phoenix was just 18 years old when the Academy read his name on February 15, 1989. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That made him the third youngest male ever nominated in that category at the time. But what really shocked people wasn't just his age. It was the movie itself. Running on Empty was a small family drama. It never made it to the top 10 at the US box office. It only earned $2.8 million, even though it cost $7 million to make. Hardly anyone saw it in theaters. Yet the Academy noticed his performance anyway. He played Danny Pope, a teenage piano prodigy. But Danny's life was far from normal. His parents were living under fake names because they had bombed a napalm lab in Indiana back in 1971. That explosion left a janitor blind and paralyzed. Since then, the family had been on the run. In the movie's first 9 minutes, they changed towns 3 times. River had to show 3 layers at once: a loyal son, a young man dreaming of Juilliard, and someone who had to lie about who he was just to survive. There's one scene where he tells the truth to his girlfriend. The camera never moves. It stays on his face for 2 straight minutes. He speaks in a whisper. His eyes keep checking the hallway. Roger Ebert called it powerful. He said River made us feel the weight of secrets no teenager should carry. Ebert gave the movie 4 stars and put it on his top 10 list for that year. The industry noticed too. River won the Best Supporting Actor prize from the National Board of Review. He beat actors like Martin Landau and Alec Guinness. He also got nominated for a Golden Globe and by the Los Angeles Film Critics. Even Akira Kurosawa added Running on Empty to his list of 100 best films in 1991. It was the only U.S. teen drama on that list. Because of this new attention, River turned down big studio movies in 1989. One of them was Goodfellas. He was offered the role of young Henry Hill. He said no. Instead, he chose My Own Private Idaho, a tiny movie that paid him 1/15 of what Goodfellas would have. But it earned him something bigger, the Volpe Cup. That same Oscar nomination started a strange record. 14 years later, in 2001, Joaquin Phoenix also got nominated. He was still under 30. This made River and Joaquin the first brothers in Oscar history to be nominated before turning 30. Even in 2025, no other pair has done that. River's one Oscar nod came at a time when he was still on teen posters, yet it showed the world that a teen idol could do something deeper. His role helped bring smaller, personal, and political stories into the spotlight, even during the era when Hollywood was chasing big blockbusters. In My Own Private Idaho, River was only 21, but the role he took on was bold. He played Mike Waters, a gay hustler with narcolepsy. In the very first scene, he collapses on a deserted highway. It wasn't just dramatic, it felt like a symbol for being left behind. 1 minute he's quoting Shakespeare with Keanu Reeves. The next, he's doing sex work for money. The movie blended poetry, pain, and humor. Roger Ebert called it all 3: poetic, funny, and heartbreaking. It cost just $2.5 million to make, but made over $8 million worldwide. River proved that people were ready to see a heartthrob in a completely different light. That role made him an Arthouse star overnight. Other young actors usually waited years to take such a risk. He didn't. On September 14, 1991, the Venice Film Festival gave River Phoenix the Volpe Cup for Best Actor. He was only 21. The press office actually messed up his bio and listed him as 31 by mistake. He walked on stage in jeans and quietly said, "I don't want more awards. Venice is the most progressive festival. Anything else would be a token." People clapped and laughed nervously. It was a big moment. That award had been around since 1934. It's the oldest acting prize in Europe. After that, the New York Times praised his performance too. More people took notice. Then, in March 1992, My Own Private Idaho swept the Independent Spirit Awards. The movie had 6 nominations. River won Best Male Lead. He beat Robert Duvall and Gary Oldman. He was only the second actor under 25 to ever win that award. The film also won Best Screenplay and Best Film Music. No other film that night won more. After that win, the movie expanded and passed the $8 million mark that summer. But not everything was about awards. The movie opened up big conversations. Critics from the new queer cinema movement called it a landmark film. They talked about its honesty, its emotion, and the way it showed love between men without hiding it. Mike's feelings for Scott, especially the campfire scene, became iconic. Right away, gossip magazines started asking about River's own life. Some even said maybe he was gay. In Girlfriend magazine, April 1992, River answered plainly. He said it was strange that people could judge someone else's sexuality. He said he never had second thoughts about playing the part. That one quote shifted the conversation. He made it about empathy, not rumors. LGBTQ viewers later said it meant a lot to see that kind of respect on screen. The bond between River and Gus Van Sant, the director, was deep. Van Sant said casting River changed the entire mood of the film. During rehearsals, they spent days in Portland cafes talking about Shakespeare and street slang. River kept asking questions about queer life. Van Sant said those questions helped make the film honest. Before this, River had only done serious but traditional dramas. This was something new. They wanted to work together again. Van Sant planned to cast River as Andy Warhol, and later as Cleve Jones in a Harvey Milk movie. Both films were never made. In 1991, River Phoenix took one of the hardest roles of his career. He played Eddie Birdlace, a young Marine in Dogfight, a story set right before President Kennedy was shot in November 1963. The film followed a cruel game where soldiers competed to bring the ugliest girl to a party. It was so disturbing that Warner Brothers barely released it. Theaters showed it in only a few places, and it made less than $500,000 before it vanished. But River didn't hold back. He trained with real Marines in San Diego. He cut his hair short, fixed his posture, and filled a notebook with fake Vietnam War stories from his character's point of view. He said it took him to a dark place he had never been. The director, Nancy Savaca, remembered him showing up at 4 in the morning, every day, smoking clove cigarettes and rereading the script. The habit stayed with him after filming. When Criterion restored the movie in 2023, some of the film reels were so damaged they had to be baked for 8 hours at 130 degrees just to stop them from falling apart. That's how close River's most heartbreaking performance came to disappearing for good. After that, he joined a big studio thriller called Sneakers. It had a $35 million budget and a star-studded cast: Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Ben Kingsley. But River was still only 21 when filming started in February 1991. He couldn't even rent a car. The cast called him the Ferret because he kept crawling under tables and props to test if the hacking scenes were realistic. He wanted everything to feel true. When Sneakers came out on September 11, 1992, it shocked everyone. It opened at #1 and made $105.2 million, 3 times what it cost. River played a fast-talking hacker who typed at 140 words per minute. To avoid using fake hand shots, he practiced real code in his trailer until he could do the whole scene in real time. Dan Aykroyd said River was always quiet, usually off to the side with a guitar. Redford later said River was scared of becoming a product, something Hollywood could buy and sell. Then came The Thing Called Love. It started shooting on June 22, 1992, and finished just 10 days before River's 23rd birthday. The budget was $14 million. They filmed it like a musical retreat. River co-wrote 2 songs, played live during his scenes, and refused to record anything in a studio. He wanted every note to be real. He also met actress Samantha Mathis on set. Sandra Bullock said they'd drive to the Bluebird Cafe every night and time it just right, so they could see the hotel fountains turn on at exactly 12:01 a.m. They did it 37 nights in a row. But even with River's name on the poster, the film never caught on. Paramount only test-screened it twice and gave it a small release. Just 576 theaters. It made only $1 million, which was barely 7% of its budget. The director, Peter Bogdanovich, said River seemed drained and overly sensitive. After scenes where his character got rejected on stage, River would sometimes cry. Bogdanovich believed it tapped into a fear River had, of failing in front of everyone. Just months later, River was working on Dark Blood. By late October 1993, most of the filming was done. They had finished 80% of the movie. Only 4 indoor scenes and 1 final explosion were left. But on Halloween night, River collapsed outside the Viper Room. The unfinished footage was worth $6 million, but insurance declared the film dead and gave a 30-day deadline to destroy it. The director, George Sluizer, didn't accept that. He drove from Paris to a warehouse in London, loaded 14 canisters into a van, each weighing 55 pounds, and saved the film just before it was shredded. The reels stayed locked in a Dutch vault for 12 years. After Sluizer suffered a medical emergency in 2010, he decided to finish it, using his voice to fill in the missing scenes. He released the final version on September 27, 2012, exactly 6,146 days after River died. Even though the movie was incomplete, critics said River's performance was haunting. His weight had shifted by nearly 15 pounds during the stop-and-go filming, so the editor had to use quick cuts to hide the changes. During the final days of shooting in the Utah desert, Sluizer noticed something was wrong. River shared a trailer wall with him, and the director said he often heard River pacing all night, practicing lines about the end of the world, then falling into emotional rants about his childhood. He told Sluizer that at age 7, he played street music every single day, just to feed his family. That memory haunted him. He said show business felt like the same kind of trap. His diet on set was just coffee, carrot juice, and guarana, a natural stimulant. The prop master estimated he was consuming 5 grams of guarana powder daily, 5 times the safe dose. Sluizer begged him to take a break, even for a week, but River refused. He said he was running out of good years. The director later said River's mood kept swinging between creative highs and emotional lows. Halting production, he said, would have been like stealing fire from a storm. On the night he died, River had no plans to party. He had dinner with Samantha Mathis and was going to drop his siblings off. But then came a phone call. Johnny Depp's band was playing at the Viper Room that night, and they wanted River to jam with them. He hadn't slept properly in days, but said he'd go for just 1 song. He and Mathis arrived at 10:40 p.m. on October 30th. About 150 people were already inside. Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea was there. So was guitarist John Frusciante, fresh off a relapse. Mathis later told The Guardian that she felt sick as soon as they walked in. She begged River to leave before midnight. She said the room felt dangerous. 45 minutes later, River collapsed outside. What happened backstage was horrifying. Later tests showed his blood had 1.96 milligrams of morphine per liter and 1.19 of cocaine. Those numbers were 8 and 5 times higher than lethal single-drug levels. The coroner also found Valium, marijuana, and propoxyphene. Witnesses said he drank something backstage, a mix of liquid cocaine, crushed Valium, and heroin. Musician Bob Forrest said Frusciante gave it to River like it was Gatorade. The drink delayed the full hit. River felt fine at first, but then his heart hit 180 beats per minute. His body filled with both stimulants and sedatives, and he started to crash. At 12:45 a.m., while Johnny Depp's band played Heroin by Lou Reed, River found Bob Forrest and whispered, "I think I'm ODing." Bob looked him over. River was walking. He could talk. So Bob told him to get some air. That moment still haunts him. Experts later said there was a 20 to 25-minute window where naloxone and other meds could have saved River. But no one acted in time. Bob Forrest now works in addiction recovery. He says every lecture he gives is a way to make up for the 20 most catastrophic minutes of my life. At 1:03 a.m., cameras caught River stumbling out of the club. He fell 12 seconds later. Witnesses said he smashed his head on the pavement again and again. Blood mixed with foam spilled from his mouth. His sister Rain tried mouth to mouth. She lay across his chest, begging him to stay alive. Joaquin ran to a nearby payphone and called 911. It lasted 73 seconds. He begged for help. Paramedics got there at 1:11. River wasn't breathing. Flea jumped into the ambulance and held River's hand while medics gave 5 rounds of epinephrine. At 1:51, after 6 shocks with a defibrillator, River was declared dead. Blood stains stayed on the sidewalk until the sun came up. Johnny Depp shut down the Viper Room for 9 days. He paid the staff himself. He bleached the sidewalk to clean the blood. Still, fans came every day. They left 3,000 candles and 15,000 roses. There were so many letters that city workers had to haul them away in 2 dumpsters. Reporters tried to buy photos of River's body for $15,000. The coroner locked down the morgue. On November 12, 1993, the toxicology report came out. There was no Google yet, but within 24 hours, it reached 23 countries. It became one of the most widely shared autopsy reports of the decade. That December, Depp ripped out the payphone Joaquin had used. He replaced it with a wall light. He said he never wanted anyone to dial death there again. When River Phoenix died, everyone assumed it was a drug overdose. The toxicology report said there was enough cocaine in his stomach to kill 8 people, enough heroin to kill 3 more. One doctor even told investigators it's enough to kill an elephant. But the strangest part? Almost none of it entered his blood. The drugs just sat there, floating in a pool of dark liquid in his stomach. 12 days after his death, the official report confirmed it. There were no injection sites anywhere on his body. So how did all that poison end up inside him if he didn't inject or snort it? The answer wasn't clear, but the lack of puncture wounds raised a flag. Maybe someone slipped it into his drink. Maybe he never took it willingly. Detectives started checking other overdose cases around LA, hoping to find a match. They found none. Whatever happened to Phoenix that night wasn't just rare. It was nearly unheard of. And there was more. Anytime cocaine is involved, coroners check the nose. They look for powder, for damage, for crystals that stay for a day or 2. But River's nose was clean. That detail quietly destroyed the official story. The one that said he snorted a speedball in the Viper Room bathroom. Because if he had, his nasal passages wouldn't be spotless. Toxicologists knew what this meant. The drugs had to come from somewhere else. And then something clicked. A bartender had said Phoenix accepted a paper cup just before he collapsed. From a man nobody recognized. That moment suddenly mattered a lot more. When the full toxicology report leaked on November 12, 1993, the tabloids screamed about the cocaine. But they missed the detail that mattered most. The one the detectives were focused on. To this day, only a handful of deaths worldwide involve an oral speedball. And River Phoenix was one of them.